You ever have those days where your computer just feels fast and responsive, and other days where it kinda doesn't? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on two incredible and pretty much invisible technologies inside Windows that are working around the clock to make your PC feel faster. It is all about thinking ahead.
Okay, so let's just dive right in with a feeling we have all had. You know, you're in the zone, you're juggling a few different apps, maybe your browser, a Word doc, some music, and when you click to switch between them, there's that little pause, that half second of lag that just drives you crazy. Why on earth does that happen?
Well, the answer really comes down to a massive speed gap inside your computer. You've got your RAM, which is like your desk. It's your active workspace, and it is lightning fast. And then you have your disk, your hard drive or SSD. That's like your filing cabinet. It's great for storing things long-term, but it is way slower to pull things from.
And that frustrating little lag, it actually has a technical name. It's called a page fault. That's the exact moment your computer realizes the piece of information you just asked for isn't on its super fast desk. Nope, it's filed away in that slow cabinet. So it has to literally stop, go on a trip to the disk, find the file, and bring it all the way back to RAM. That round trip is the lag you feel.
For years, this was just the reality of how computers worked. They were reactive. You'd click, and it would trigger a page fault. But then, Windows developers had a really brilliant idea. What if instead of just reacting to you, the system could be proactive? What if it could try to guess what you're going to need before you even ask for it?
And that proactive thinking brings us to our first amazing solution, a feature called Superfetch. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a psychic librarian living inside your computer.
So Superfetch's entire job is to watch how you use your computer and predict your next move. It keeps track of the apps and files you use the most, and during quiet moments when your computer is idle, it starts preloading that data from the slow disk into your fast RAM. That way, when you actually go to launch that program, boom, it's already there waiting for you.
So, how does this magic trick actually work? Well, it's a pretty straightforward process. First, it monitors you. Windows has these little agents that watch everything from what happens when you boot up to which apps you launch. Then, a component called the Scenario Manager takes all that data and starts to identify patterns in your behavior. And finally, based on those patterns, it proactively preloads what it thinks you'll need next, turning what would have been a slow page fault into an instant response.
And this is where it gets really smart. It's not just looking at which apps you open. It's looking for deeper patterns. Like, it'll notice when an application always reads a large file from start to finish. Think a media player or a video editor. Or it'll see you opening a bunch of files from the same project folder. It sees that behavior and essentially thinks, aha, I know what's coming next, and it gets all that data ready for you.
The end goal here is pretty simple, but powerful. To make your entire PC experience feel incredibly responsive. By thinking ahead, Superfetch's whole mission is to have your favorite apps loaded and ready to go before you even think about clicking on them.
Okay, this proactive approach is amazing, right? But it does bring up a pretty obvious question. If Superfetch is always busy loading things into RAM just in case you need them, what happens when that RAM gets completely full? What does Windows do when the entire desk is covered in papers?
And that question leads us directly to the second genius solution, which is called memory compression. So if Superfetch is our psychic librarian, you can think of memory compression as a master packer who is an expert at creating more space.
You can see the huge shift in strategy right here. The old way was just to take the stuff you weren't using and move it off the desk and back to the slow filing cabinet. It worked, but it was slow. The new way is so much smarter. Instead of kicking data out of RAM, a system process just compresses it. It shrinks it down and stores it in a little private section of RAM, keeping it close by.
Here's a great analogy. Think of your RAM as your main closet. Now, instead of moving all your bulky winter coats up to the attic every spring, which is a pain to get to, what if you just vacuum sealed them? They'd take up way less space, but they'd still be right there, in the closet, ready to go if you get a surprise cold snap. That's exactly what memory compression does for your data.
And this technique is so good for how we use our day-to-day devices that it's turned on by default on pretty much every consumer version of Windows. It's on your PC, it's on your Xbox, it's optimized for that feeling of responsiveness. That's also why it's usually turned off on big server systems, because they're worried about different kinds of performance.
And here is where it all comes full circle. Guess what service is responsible for kicking off this memory compression? It's the very same service that runs Superfetch. It's a perfect partnership. Superfetch proactively fills up RAM with useful stuff, and then, when things get a little tight, it taps the compression engine on the shoulder to make more room. So, okay, we've got these two super clever processes, Superfetch and memory compression, running in the background all the time. But what's the actual real-world payoff for you just trying to get your work done?
The benefits are things you can actually feel. Applications launch way faster. That annoying lag when you're multitasking, it's practically gone. The whole system just feels more fluid, more responsive. It's the direct result of Windows not just reacting, but thinking ahead on your behalf.
So, the next time your computer just feels fast and snappy, remember what's going on under the hood. It's not just about raw hardware power. It's about these two intelligent, proactive strategies working together as a team, bridging that critical speed gap to make your entire experience feel seamless.
And that kind of leaves us with a really fascinating thought, doesn't it? These are just two of the hidden helpers working behind the scenes. It really makes you wonder, what other invisible processes are running right now on your phone, on your computer, all designed to make our digital lives just a little bit smarter and a little bit smoother.
If you want to help me out, please smash that like button, leave a random comment, and subscribe if you want to become a better hacker.